Hey everyone, and welcome to 121 in Flux. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we talk about movies on this show. Not new movies, older movies, sometimes older than others, depending on what's going on. But on this episode, we are going to talk about the 1999 version of The Mummy. Of course, we're doing this because the new version starring Tom Cruise is only a few weeks away. And interestingly, it seems like they're going for a similar action-adventure kind of route for it, rather than... Because you would almost think if they're rebooting it again, they'll go, oh, we'll go back to its horror roots or something like that. But it seems like this version has actually been more of the inspiration for it.
I wonder if that's just because nowadays when people think of The Mummy, they probably think more of this version. General public.
General public, sure, I can see that. So obviously we're doing this one. We decided to do this one. That doesn't mean to say we'll never do any other Mummy movies. Although that might be more of a Streams After Midnight episode than it is a 121 in Flux episode. But this one is definitely. I mean, there's some small horror elements, sure, but it's an action adventure. It's Indiana
Yeah,
Jones.
it is. I still
For the
see people
90s.
say, "Oh, it's a horror movie in parts." It's like it's not.
No,
It's just not.
it's got a couple of moments where they play up the horror, sure, but it is not that type of movie. It's a wisecracking hero movie with comic relief.
Like you say, Indiana Jones is the closest comparison.
Yeah. So yeah, we're going to talk about The Mummy, 1999. I don't think we'll bother with a spoiler-free section. I feel like
Yeah.
I almost feel there's no point. I can't imagine. I can't imagine a lot of people having not seen this, and if you haven't, I guess you're either really young or you just never cared about it. I don't know. It just feels like a movie that everyone's seen to me. I feel like I've never met anyone who's not seen this. Even you had
No,
seen
that's
this
fair.
before
I
we did
had.
this
I
show.
mean, it'd been a long time, and I hadn't
Yeah,
seen it as with adult eyes. But yeah,
yeah. I saw it a few times back when it came out. I remember quite liking it back in the day, as
yeah.
a young boy, young lad. This has been my first time watching it in maybe a decade. I remember watching it when I first got the Blu-ray, because that was a thing. So this has been about a decade, maybe just under a decade since I last watched it. All
That's
right,
fair.
so I guess first things first. Does it hold up? Did we like it again this time?
I think it's enjoyable enough.
It's enjoyable enough.
Yeah.
That was positive, but not a ringing endorsement.
I don't think it's a great movie by any stretch of the imagination, but I mean, I had fun.
Yeah, I have fun too. It does feel kind of like, and I hate to be mean about it, but it really does feel like discount Spielberg
Yeah,
or
no, it does.
not even specifically Spielberg, just discount good director. And
Yeah, yeah.
that sounds really bad, and it's not that it's badly directed. It's fine. Like
It's kind of by the numbers, isn't it?
yeah, it's competent. There's nothing about it in the direction that makes me go, oh, this was a visionary. This is a guy who really like went for a style or really went for something. It's very competent and it's very solid, but nothing
Yeah,
exceptional.
there's no point where you go, oh, that's bad. Something was really wrong there.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, and the reason I think that obviously became more clear as I seen more of his movies. Like Mummy Returns was. I actually don't hate Mummy Returns. Again, from memory, it's been a long time since I've seen Mummy Returns, but you know, not great. And I think he also did the third one, and it was like one of the most dire experiences of my life trying to get through that.
I don't think I ever saw the third one.
I know people like his movie.
Second one's in London, right?
Yes, at least part
Yes,
of it. Yeah,
I've definitely seen that one.
yeah, yeah. Because their home's in London. They've got a big
Yeah,
mansion at the start of the second one. They've got a kid. But the yeah, I think people like he's got one film that he did before this. I think it's called Deep Rising, which I've never seen, but I know some people like that. But I don't think he ever really had big success after this. We'll talk about Stephen Sommers, of course. I don't think I said his name before. Stephen Sommers directed this. I really don't think he's done anything
it kind of
since.
seems like he's just a go-to Hollywood man. You just okay, just want something doing.
In fact, not only that, he's made some stuff that I really, really dislike.
Oh,
I mean, obviously I mentioned The Mummy, but I really hate Van Helsing.
last time I watched that, I was very, very drunk. So, you know, I can't really speak
I
to the quality of that
I
one.
saw that at the movies when it came out, and I really, really did not like it. It turns out he didn't actually direct the third Mummy, by the way. I was just to point
Oh,
that out.
okay, so that someone else gets the blame for that.
Yeah, I kind of threw him in there with that, and it wasn't him. I think that was actually Brett Ratner. Now that I'm thinking about it, which
Ugh,
uh, even more of a
that
reason.
explains it.
Yeah,
But yeah,
um,
you said that he kind of reminds me of Brett Ratner in the same sort of way. You know, just like someone in Hollywood where, oh, we need a movie. We need someone to direct this thing.
yeah.
He'll do.
He's not actually done that many. He did G.I. Joe: Rise of the Cobra, which I
What, the
never saw.
first or the second one?
That's the first one.
Right, okay. I think the second one was meant to be better.
I, well,
I've never watched them either.
I'll take your word for it. I really did hate Van Helsing though, and I remember thinking it was weird watching Van Helsing that he was doing this movie that brought in every other Universal monster, but didn't really do much with the Mummy because he didn't want to do a Mummy thing again.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was just kind of weird in that sense. But I just didn't like that movie that much. But the Mummy is fun. Like as much as I've kind of pointed out a few things that maybe. It does feel like kind of typical, but I think it's a very solid typical. Like I think watching this,
Yeah.
it's very uh, cohesive. It's very pacing's pretty good. You've got a good strong cast. I think the reason why this movie was even successful, to be honest, and why it is still very watchable, is its cast. I think Brendan Fraser isn't exactly the biggest actor in the world, but he is actually quite a likable, charming lead.
Yeah, he's got charisma, hasn't he?
Yeah, Rachel Weisz is very good. Probably the best actual like actor in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's very good. And then John Hannah, despite the fact that he is painfully not. His accent in this movie is a thing of absolute shambles.
I wondered how long we'd get talking about him before we got onto his accent.
Oh, it's the first thing I'm bringing up because,
Yeah, no, that's fair. It was atrocious.
don't get me wrong, he's actually very funny. Like, he's good in the movie. But,
Yeah, I like him.
but I swear, it's like some sentences he's trying to sound English, some sentences he starts off English and ends in Scottish, some sentences he's just Scottish the entire time, and I don't know what he does
I
doing that
swear
take.
every so often, when he's around the Americans, I swear sometimes he's basically American instead of English.
Oh, God,
I
it's just,
don't know what that man was doing with his accent, but it was not good.
you get the feeling though that no one. I mean, you'd imagine Rachel Weisz would have like noticed because like it should at least notice that it's not constantly being English, if nothing else. Whereas, but I at least get that Stephen Sommers and maybe like Brendan Fraser and like a lot of the people on set maybe just didn't notice because it's not an accent there. You know, the
Yeah,
accents
it's
are familiar.
close enough as far as they're concerned.
Yeah, but maybe it's just awkward for like, Rachel like just one day on set. Hey, John, your accent's a bit shit. You want to, you want to try? And
I think
tidy
I
it
think
up?
she was just too embarrassed to say anything to anyone, and no one told him that it was bad.
Do you know what the thing is though? I'd actually bother me less because I might be brother and sister, but it would actually bother me less if they just said, you know what, John, screw it, just use your accent.
Just say your brother and sister, but you went and spent some time in Scotland.
Yeah,
for
you
5
went
years.
you went to a school in Scotland for your childhood, and you developed an accent, and that's it. That's fine.
Yeah.
Instead, we get this back and forth mixed thing that's just constantly going back and forth.
And it's
shocking.
the worst thing that he does in this movie because otherwise he does a perfectly fine performance.
Oh, he's great.
It's fun.
He's fantastic comic relief. The movie has almost too much comic relief because you've got him, who's great. You've got Benny, who's pretty funny for the majority of his screen time. You've got the guy who's going to hang
Yeah,
Brendan Fraser's character, Rick. His name is. I'm just looking over the names. Like he was pretty funny. I mean, he wasn't in it for as long, but he had some pretty funny scenes.
yeah, definitely.
So no, there's good comic relief, and that's kind of why it's not a horror movie. Is that it's comic relief, it's adventure, there's action scenes. When the mummy actually does start to become a thing, and we've got the army of mummies that are fighting. It's a guy waving a sword at CGI monsters and rolling around and ducking them and diving, and it's like it's fine, it's fun, but it's not horror.
Absolutely not. No.
No,
But,
and
like I
even
say, it's fun.
yeah, and they even poke fun at it. At one point, like they open the book and we go, and you hear the whoosh, like there's a gust of wind,
Yeah.
and Rick looks up and goes, "That happens a lot around here." Like acknowledging the stupid, spooky effect, like right
Yeah.
away. Like the horror elements are there for almost camp.
They are. It is played almost satirically.
Yeah. So yeah, it's definitely not a horror movie. I think that's pretty clear. But as a popcorn summer movie, it's pretty enjoyable. It's solid enough. I think this obviously what let the second one down probably was the script. And also some PS1 video game graphics at the end that were supposed to be CG. That Scorpion King enters my nightmares for all the wrong reasons. Oh. Then the actual movie.
I love the idea that, like, 15 years later, you're still scared of this thing. It still haunts you.
The actual Scorpion King movie is. Because the Mummy Returns isn't terrible to watch though, because it still has the cast and it's still, they still have chemistry. They're still having, But the actual Scorpion King movie is completely irredeemable, and it's one of the few movies where after I watched it, I just went, "That was a 1 out of 10. Get out of my sight. I want nothing to do with it."
I have never had the misfortune of watching it.
Oh, I hated it. I'm probably exaggerating. I'm sure, now I've seen so much crap that it wouldn't even seem as bad as it did back when I watched it.
Yeah,
but
maybe it's a tame 3.
Yeah, but oh jeez, that was. That was rough. Oh dear. Other things, I think the score's fantastic. I think the music's great. Oh, here comes Mr. Music Snob to pick apart that comment.
I'm trying to phrase this diplomatically. It is sometimes great. Sometimes I hated what it was doing with a passion.
Oh, what did you hate what it was doing?
There were times where it would almost do, the big horror strings, the hung, hung, and it would do it like with brass and drums and everything all at once, out of nowhere. It's like, why are you doing this?
Okay. I'm thinking.
What is that doing here?
I'm thinking it's main themes. It's the main heroic theme, the Evelyn theme. There's a lot of themes that play through it, and they all work
which
really
is why
well.
I said it's often great, but then it has these moments where I just like, what is it doing? What is this doing in this movie? It makes no sense.
Hey, it's Jerry Goldsmith here. He's hardly an amateur. Let's give him
no,
some credit.
I know, but I'm still gonna call it. It feels like he was just going. It feels like sometimes he thought the scenes were intended to be straight horror, like because he was seeing some of them without the context. He was going, okay, I know what this is, and then was just doing like a horror score for it, but he wasn't playing up the satirical nature of it.
Okay. It sounds fantastic though. I'll say that. The DTS HD Master Audio on the Blu-ray is goddamn beautiful. I'm sure it is. It's one of the things that's getting really funny now as we keep going through time, because I remember when the movies from the sort of late 90s, early 2000s were like, oh, these are the new movies. They look fantastic on disc. They sound great on disc, because this is when 5.1 mixing was really hitting its stride, and it was really good. And it's just funny now that movies that are hitting 20 years old are still there's almost been no change. Sound mixes are just as good.
Yeah.
Back then as they are now for the most. And that's not to say that anyone now is doing anything wrong. It's just no, you've sussed it.
You've peaked.
Yeah, they're great. And that's why they're trying really gimmicky things, like having speakers on the ceiling and speakers on the floor and all these other wacky
ideas. You say
ideas.
Gimmicky, but they are pretty fantastic.
You know what? I'm sure they're fine, but the thought of installing them in my house is kind of ludicrous.
A nightmare. Yeah. But that is why you get the cinema experience.
Sure. But I'll get to see it in the cinema once, or maybe a few times while it's playing. For the rest of my life, I'm going to be watching it at home.
That's true. But they got to have something to keep people going to those cinemas.
So the 5.1 is obviously a lot of people have 7.1, but 5.1, 7.1, that's the baseline. That's what people keep coming back to. But no, I really like the music. That's really good. What did you think of the effects? Because obviously at the time when this came out, this was a big CG Marvel. This is one of the biggest effects movies there has been.
Honestly, I think mostly it holds up all right. It's not amazing.
Yeah, I think I can always tell it's CG. It looks old but good, if that sounds right.
Yeah, you can tell it was amazing at its time.
Yeah. But I do have. There was one or two things that did really bother me. I thought the scarab beetles looked pretty shitty.
Yep.
Whenever they were around. And then the other thing I thought looked really bad was actually on the title screen. Not the actual text, because obviously that's CG, but that's okay to look CG because it's text. Yeah. It was the Anubis statue behind it. Not so much when it got to the top, but it was the start. It was the camera was tilting up. Going up and it was the feet and all that. It's because it was nighttime and it was really darkly lit. It just looked really fake.
No, I agree with that.
And that's
I said there were a couple of times the scarabs in particular where I was like, okay, that hasn't aged so well. But the most part, like the mummy itself, still looks pretty good.
Yeah, it's weird because I'm like, okay, this is pretty good, but at the same time, I'm like, this is nothing compared to what we see now. It's like you can see the difference in quality, but you kind of like, you don't shudder and go, oh god, get
Yeah,
it.
it's not something you hold against it. You go, no, you know what you did at the time with your limitations. This was solid work.
Yeah, because most of the extras actually on the disc are basically all about the effects. Like that's what they wanted to talk about. We really got effects. There's, and maybe that's why the story's pretty typical. It's a pretty simple story because it is all
Yeah,
about the effects.
it was just a showcase movie.
I will say this: I think Egyptian curses are really stupid. Right, so the opening of the movie, our mummy Imhotep, is having it off with the pharaoh's wife, and for this they get through this mummy ritual, this really specific one, this specific curse, where if he ever gets awakened, he will have the plagues of Egypt, and he'll have all these powers. He'll basically be a god, and the entire world will suffer. Why? Why does the rest of the world suffer? You want to punish him? I don't get it.
I don't really have an answer for you.
Is it punishing the people who woke him up?
I think it's meant to be, punish his worshippers, his followers. Like if you try, you might succeed in getting him out, but you're going to suffer for it.
I guess. I'm just saying that, and this isn't necessarily the movie's fault because not that specific curse, but I know like there's a lot of actual, like when I say actual curses, I mean at least they believed that they were doing curses and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, not the real is up for plenty of debate, but it just to me it doesn't make much sense logically. Like no, just put a curse on him to keep him dead. Done.
I agree. It also makes me laugh that it's called the Mummy and he's not a mummy because he doesn't get mummified. He just gets shoved in the sarcophagus.
That's very true. That's very true. But he was wrapped in bandages, and I think for the public, that's close enough.
Fine.
Never got to see him walking around in bandages though. There was just like this skeleton kind of.
Yeah, I kind of liked his look. Like where he was almost transparent. You can see like there's no organs in there. They were gone, but there was just bits of skin.
Yeah, maybe the new movie will have an actual mummy.
I'm not holding my breath for it though.
Maybe the whole thing. I can see it doing this exact same thing where it gains strength and becomes more human, so we can just have an actor.
Yeah,
being the character, but I can see it doing this. Obviously, it's big sequence that everyone talked about at the time was the wall of sand when when Imhotep like chases the plane that's got Rick and like John Hannah's character on it, and creates the wall of sand, but his face is in the sand, and then at one point his mouth opens up, and it's like the big giant mouth of sand coming for them.
It's pretty cool.
It's a pretty fun sequence. I don't think I realised back, in the day when I was watching this, that the pilot, the sort of, I think his name is Winston, he's this British pilot. He's basically introduced in one scene before this, just so they can go to him later to be a pilot.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty light. Whereas I thought the characters were really... One of the stuff I really liked about it early on is that, so, they get Rick to help show them the path to Hamunaptra, which is the city of the dead, where they're hoping to find stuff. And obviously it's John Hannah and Rachel Weisz, and there's this like rival like group of Americans who are going as well, and they make a bet, and it's kind of this fun rivalry kind of thing going on.
Yeah, they've got their guide.
Yeah. In fact, going back to because obviously Benny's their guide for them, Rick's the guide for our main characters. But one of my favourite jokes in the movie actually is when Rick finds Benny on the boat. And and obviously we see at the start of the movie, Benny basically leaves him to die. So Rick's rightly a little bit pissed, and he grabs him and he's like, "Think of my children. You don't have any children. Someday I might." I think that's a pretty funny joke.
It's good, yeah.
That's a pretty good joke.
That got me.
Yeah, there's some good lines. Like I was almost surprised by how much it was making me chuckle throughout. Like it has a lot of good lines, and
I think that's what does keep it enjoyable. You're never bored because you never go more than 5 minutes before someone cracks a one-liner, which it's something.
Yeah, it's. like I say, I think it always comes back to that. I think it is the characters, the cast, and their chemistry that makes it work. And I think it's why, even though the plot, from what I remember of the second movie, is absolute trash, at least it's watchable because it is the same characters interacting. I think where it maybe falls, and I think I think it does fall a little bit in the second, because I think if I remember correctly in the second one, they get separated for some time, and that's a bit of an issue.
Well, I can imagine it would be.
Yeah, and obviously in the third one, they recast Evelyn, which it's like, what's the point? The characters made the movie. You can tell me
introduce a new character at that point.
Yeah, you can tell me it's about the effects, and the effects are a big part of it. But I think ultimately this movie is about the characters. It's about the chemistry. It's about her clearly fancying him but not wanting to, and him being the roguish, hero who, has a heart of gold deep down in there, but he's very brash and all the rest of it. So I think that's ultimately what the movie has going for it.
Yeah, definitely. I think, like you say, it's those characters that make it that it's still enjoyable today when, the effects aren't a wow factor anymore by any standards.
Yeah.
So it's these other things that, go, oh yeah, I can still have fun with this.
Yeah. Yeah, and then the ending's kind of fun because we get them, like I say, sword fighting a bunch of CGI mummies, and it's all kind of brisk and light-hearted.
It's very, swashbuckling, like Errol Flynn pirates sort of thing.
Yeah, some of it's pretty funny as well. The way he'll elbow one of them, or one behind him, like he stabs the other one in front of him in the head, and he doesn't see it coming. He just gets lucky, and it's kind of a funny thing. Yeah. It makes me wonder, like, how much it was choreographed. Like, did they know what the movements were and they taught them to Brendan Fraser, or did they say, right, you just do it, and we'll animate them around you?
I imagine it was choreographed, though, because imagine how much extra hassle it would be to have to be creative and work around it, rather than having it planned out in advance and going, right, we got this, we know what we've got to do.
I know it is. I even though I ponder it, but part of me likes the idea that he could have just went up there and, like, pretended and just play, basically play fought with the air. And just, you can work around me.
I think that's a credit to his acting then in this scene. The fact that he can make you question that, and come off that, that he's doing it that effortlessly. When you know it must be that choreographed.
Ah, yeah. Oh, that's fair. Yeah. I think, the ending's fine. I think the ending's enjoyable. It does get a little bit, like, I don't think I ever really cared about the plot that the mummy was trying to do.
No.
Like, he's trying to resurrect his wife, he's doing this, he's doing that.
I didn't care about that. I was just like, all right, come on, let's have some more fun.
I think the closest thing to the horror stuff that I liked was when he was hunting down, like, the Americans who opened his chest.
That's pretty good.
I liked the shadow of the man who, like, you just see him, like, get, like, the life sucked out of him and, like, shadow, so he just gets really skinny.
Yeah.
And then Imhotep walks into frame with just, like, a bit of his mouth missing now, and the thing crawls in his face and he chews it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, which is basically just them showing off the effects.
When we went down and the guy had his eyes out and his tongue. So that was a pretty cool moment in terms of, we didn't see the horror, but you see the effects of it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you get a little bit of suspense before the whole thing happens, because his glasses get smashed and he stands up and he's like reaching around. And that was maybe like that, and then when they get hunted down was probably the most horror the movie got, because every time Rick was on screen, there was no chance it was going to feel like a horror movie.
No, it couldn't, could it?
No. And even Evelyn, who's a really likable character. Evelyn's kind of, she's that uptight, librarian basically, but she's also a klutz. She's also all these things, and but they have really good chemistry, which. And I've said that a lot. They all have good chemistry. But I mean, if I'm going to compare it to, like, Star Wars, say, there is, like, this trio at the center of the story.
There is, yeah.
And she is kind of very Leia. Not exactly, but there was a fair bit of.
There's definitely that in there, yeah.
Yeah, and Rick is less Luke Skywalker and more Han Solo, and then we don't really have a Luke Skywalker. We have a John Hannah.
Yeah, he is his own beast.
Yeah, so. But I think there's definitely some parallels you can draw in there if you were really wanting to look for them.
Yeah.
That's the Mummy. That's basically it. Is there anything in the plot you want to talk about? We haven't really talked about the plot overly much.
Not particularly, because, like I said, I was never that invested in the plot. It never really mattered to me. It was just kind of the vehicle for these three characters to just kind of have some fun.
Yeah, that's kind of what it feels like to me as well. I did like the sort of the revelation that the head librarian, or whatever his actual position was one of this secret order that protected Hamunaptra, so that he
Yeah.
would never get risen. Because I actually, on a rewatch, because I already knew that, when he accidentally burns the map at the start of the movie, you can sort of see that he's intentionally holding it over the flame, and it's just very intentional. It's just
Yeah. I caught that.
yeah. Which, by the way, speaking of the start of the movie, when they introduce Evelyn, she's in the library and she's on the ladder, and she ends up like trying to put the book back, and then the ladder goes upright, and she's like she's basically on stilts on the ladder, trying to like.
Yeah.
Two things. I thought it was really impressive that I couldn't spot the stunt double when I went to the wide shot. They did a really good job of hiding it, so that's A, impressive. And B, I did appreciate the artistry and having to physically do this on set, where she knocks down all the bookcases in the domino in a circle.
Yeah. I hope they got that in one go, because that would be hell to set up again for another take.
That's why you pay a lot of set people just to be there to move things and put things back in place.
I know, but even for a team of 10 people, that's still effort. That was a big room.
It was a big room. If I'm going to talk about direction, it's maybe the only time the camera did something really interesting. Was it follows them go round in a circle, and then as it gets back round to her, she stands up into frame. It's like it was the one.
It's all in the one take, isn't it?
It was the one time I felt like there was some proper choreography with the camera work going on. Whereas it wasn't bad the rest of the movie, like I say. It was just, it was dependable.
Yeah, standard. I think I had more fun than I expected to going in, because, like I said, I'd enjoyed it a long time ago, but I wasn't really expecting it to hold up.
I think it's definitely not something I could watch again too soon. But I think every, like, say, 5 years at least.
Yeah, that seems reasonable. 5-6 years or so.
I could enjoy it again. I think it would be fresh enough again that I could get into it. And the stuff that does make it work still now is the characters, it is the chemistry, it is the jokes.
Yeah, and that's the sort of stuff that will last the test of time. If you want to watch this in 30 years, that's no matter how awful the CG may look at that stage, you're still going to enjoy that stuff.
All right, let's do some ratings before we wrap up. So, out of 10, Ginger.
I think I'll go with a 6.5. It's enjoyable, but it's not necessarily a good movie.
Yeah, I'm going to go slightly. I'm going to go with a 7. I think I'm going to go just slightly higher. I think it's very good at what it is.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't think it's a great movie by any means. I would never go higher than a 7, but I feel like for what it is, it's a very solid, capable, enjoyable, inoffensive movie.
Yeah, I can't argue too much with a 7.
Yeah, so that'd be where I'd land. So something light to watch with maybe the kids, on a weekend. I think it's a pretty enjoyable little time for that kind of thing. It's kind of weird how this is something that, I mean, this came out when I was 10 when this came out, and we're at reboot time. It's starting to feel weird that stuff that was new.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, obviously, The Mummy wasn't an original film either. It was the original Mummy came out in 1933, I think the year was. But it just in the sense that this new one's more of a mainstream, big budget action movie. That it feels more like a reboot of this than it does.
It does. In the same way that this doesn't really feel like a reboot of that Mummy, does it? It's like no, this is just taking the spiritual concept and doing something completely different.
Yeah.
So this new one does feel like it pertains more to this than anything else.
Yeah. It does look darker though. Just from the trailers, it looks like it's got more of an edge to it. Like there's going to be more threat, and maybe that would lead to a little bit of horror.
And maybe it'll just lead to a more interesting plot if you care a bit more because there's threat.
Given that it's Tom Cruise and given that he seems to be doing some stunts, it really does feel like it's going to be like do you know how this one was Indiana Jones but with Mummy? This one's going to be Mission Impossible but with the Mummy. It kind of feels like that going in.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, no, maybe fun. Honestly, my expectations for this Mummy movie are like just zero, not negative, not positive.
I don't have any expectations of it. It's like okay,
completely flat.
I've seen a trailer, but I still don't really know what I'm going to get out of this movie.
I don't, which is why I'm jumping to Mission Impossible, but with a supernatural threat, because it's just all I can compare it to.
Yeah,
based on the trailers. And obviously this is going to be the start of their shared monster universe, which I like the idea of doing this, because before Marvel, long before Marvel, they were doing this in the 30s and 40s. This was a thing.
Yeah, but wasn't Dracula Untold, or whatever that, I think it was Dracula Untold? Wasn't that supposed to be the start of this?
Well, not really, because it wasn't made that way. They decided,
It wasn't made that way, but then they said, oh yeah, this is the start of it.
Yeah, but then it bombed, and they said, yeah, never mind. We just made that up anyway. Because they did make it up. It wasn't filmed. They didn't write the script thinking it was going to start this. Whereas we already know that in this Mummy movie, Russell Crowe's in it as Dr. Jekyll.
Ah, I did not know that, but that's cool.
It's seeding things for future movies.
This is the thing. I've not looked into this movie like at all. I've seen one trailer, and that's all I know.
And I like the idea of a shared universe that isn't superhero related. You know?
Yeah. And you're clearly not super into the King Arthur one.
And that looks like it's tanking horrendously.
Don't worry, you've still got your Robin Hood one coming.
That's also going to tank horrendously, I'm pretty sure. But, you know, like the Godzilla King Kong Monsterverse, this classic Universal verse, like I'm interested in seeing these working out, because I think they could be interesting and different because they have this different focus. It's just a case of
also they can do completely different style of films within the universe as well. Like superhero films, you're doing superhero movies in your universe, aren't you? For the 95% of it.
Yeah, if Mummy's the big action movie, you could make, you can
still do a horror movie and have it in this universe.
Invisible Man could be more of a comedy. Dracula can be more of a horror.
You can do a thriller. You can do all those things with these creatures. Whereas with a superhero universe, you're pretty much locked into superhero movies, aren't you?
For the most part. Obviously, they've squeezed in some science fiction.
Yeah, you got a bit of leniency here and there, but for the most part.
So, no. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful the new one will be fun. I have no idea, though. I have no expectations. So
none whatsoever.
We'll see how it works out.
We'll see in a few weeks.
Yeah, I was just trying to think if I've got a definitive favourite Mummy movie. I don't think I do. Because the Mummy's never been one of my favourite of the Universal monsters. It's always...
It's probably my least favourite of that early set.
It is for me as well. I like Frankenstein, Dracula, Invisible Man, Wolfman, all more.
Yeah, same.
And not because I dislike the idea of the Mummy, just the movies themselves. I think they're all better movies.
Yeah.
That has been The Mummy. Let us know what you think of this movie in the comments below. Of course, like, subscribe, all that stuff. And if you want to help us out, a bit more than that, you can go to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. And this is important, actually, because one of the benefits of being a patron over there at the $5 tier and up is that you get to vote on a bonus episode of 1.21 in Flux. And the vote for the next one is up. It is going to be up until the last day of the month, 31st of May. The actual episode will be done sometime early to mid-June, but the voting's up till the end of the month. Typically you'll get a little bit more time than this, but this is because obviously we just started the Patreon this month, so things are a little bit more condensed. But there's 4 options that you can vote for. The options are Waking Life, which is a Richard Linklater film from 2001. The Bad Sleep Well, which is a Japanese Akira Kurosawa film. Escape from Alcatraz, which stars Clint Eastwood and is a prison escape movie from 1979, and The Keep from 1983, which is a sort of thriller Michael Mann sort of almost horror story from what I can tell. But that's the 4 options. So you can vote on them up to the end of the month if you're a patron at the $5 tier or up. So obviously everyone gets the episode though. Obviously patrons get it a week early because that's one of their perks. As we mentioned last week with what was last week's movie?
Wonder Woman?
Yeah, just keeping it straight in my head. Patreon gets the episodes a week in advance for $1. So if you're watching this on YouTube, the next one's already up on Patreon. So if you just spend $1, you get the next one. So there's some bonuses to be had if you want to help us out. But if not, that's cool. Liking, subscribing, and just watching the videos helps too. So yeah. So thank you for all of it. So. So let us know what you think of the movie, all that stuff. Get us on Twitter at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. Get us individually on Twitter. I'm at Wibble89. Connor's at ConnorRyan94. But that is us. So thank you once again for watching. We'll see you next time.